complexity, right? You can see here wave 4 is only about 10 or 15% the size of wave 3. It's 1/5 the complexity and at least 1/5 the time. So that's the reason why you can't call this wave 4. Now some may want to try to move, some may want to try to move the fourth wave possibly here or here. See, a lot of orthodox highway people might want to move it here just to make a simplified wave move up to the high. So what is the problem with this particular situation? Again, the fourth wave would still take less time than the third wave itself. So if any of you get my forecasting service, you'll notice I use these rectangles a lot, and that's to measure minimum price and time and maximum price and time and so forth. So if we tried to finish the fourth wave right here, it would still take only about half the time of wave 3. It would be complicated enough, but it wouldn't be time consuming enough. And price wise, it's still only about 10% of the third wave in price. So it still doesn't fall into the rule of similarity and balance, where at least a third of the price, a third of the time, and a third of the complexity. So it's still uncomfortably small to be considered a legitimate fourth wave correction. So I'm going to back out of some of this stuff. So we now know that we can't finish the third wave here, or if we do, we'd have to move wave 4 way over here. If we do that, then the fifth wave begins to look like a corrective rally, not an impulsive rally. And we have an extremely strong fourth wave that would be drifting up with the trend. This could be possible. So let me just pursue this for a minute. If we were to move the fourth wave over here and change the reason I'm going through all this is because I want you to understand the process of elimination, to where you can say, well, none of these things are possible, so what we're left with must be the only scenario that is possible. So if we move the fourth wave way over here, it would imply the fourth wave is very strong, that it's drifting upward. I'm not sure what the structure of it would be. You could say maybe it's a running contracting triangle. It's not really clear, but that running correction would be a very strong indication that the fifth wave is going to be the longest wave. So if the fifth wave is going to be the longest wave, then you want it to be at least 161% of wave 3. So go ahead and measure the third wave here. And it looks like it's at least 161% of wave 3, so almost 200%. So we know that if we have this as a 1, 1, 2, 3, and we get rid of the fourth wave here for a minute. Then this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we go through the fourth wave. Then it's possible that maybe we could have a fifth wave up here. Okay, so that would, of course, assume that this low here in 1982 is wave 2, and around 1966 would be wave 1. I don't have the charts going back that far, so I can't really make comparisons to what wave 1 looks like in relation to wave 3. I'm pretty sure that the advance from around 1949 to 1966 is bigger than this, which would start to pose some problems. But let's just take this for what it is for now. And we'll assume this is wave 3 and this is 4 and this is 5. Okay, with a really strong fourth wave correction, the fifth wave itself would need to be larger than the larger third wave, not just the smaller third wave, which was what I was originally measuring. So let me go ahead and take a measurement of this. So whenever you have a powerful correction, the move after the powerful correction has to be comfortably bigger than the move before the powerful correction. So you can see in this case, if this is wave 3 is basically the same size as wave 5, but we have this incredibly powerful fourth wave that occurs. So we don't have an extended wave. We're missing an extended wave following a very powerful correction. So that means that this scenario is also not possible. So I'm going to back out of all this really quick here. So we've gone through a few scenarios where we've attempted to put wave 5 here, but then it makes wave 4 too small, or it makes wave 4 too strong. So we're going to have to back out of all this analysis since that doesn't work. And I'm getting back to the scenario that I had before. So if we go back to having the third wave finish here, and then we realize that this fourth wave is it can't finish here because of what happens after the channeling and the complexity and the other issues that we discussed, make it impossible to finish wave 4 here. So if we can't finish it here, could we maybe have it as an ABC and finish it here? Well, if we try to finish it here, that indicates that we're finishing at a very strong conclusion point. And if it's a very strong conclusion point, it means the new up move needs to be bigger than the previous up move, or for sure bigger than the previous B wave, which is a smaller degree. This would be part of wave 5 if wave 4 ended here, and you can see this move is smaller than the third wave and is smaller than the lower degree B wave. So once again, we run into degree issues. You don't want a smaller degree pattern being, you don't want a bigger degree pattern being smaller than a smaller degree pattern, especially when you're coming out of a strong correction. So that means that wave 4 can't finish here either, and then for the same reason it can't finish here because the move after is even smaller. So the only place we can actually finish wave 4 is at a much, much higher point, and that's also the only point where we can finish wave 4 without any break of the trend line before wave 5 comes to an end. If you put wave 4 here, you can see it gets broken here. You can't break the 2-4 trend line until the 5th wave is over in a standard 5-wave move. That again doesn't include terminal patterns, it includes normal 5-wave moves. So if you have a 2-4 trend line, if it's real and if it's correct, you can't break that 2-4 trend line. So that's why we can't put wave 4 here. We can't put wave 4 here because it gets broken again before the 5th wave is over. We can't put wave 4 there. The only place we can put it is right there. And then finally, we have an entire 5-wave move, we have the entire 5th wave finishing before we break the 2-4 trend line. So this makes this a potentially legitimate 5-wave move with a 5th wave extension. So once you do that, then that's just the beginning. You have the possibility of a 5-wave move. Now you need to go through the assessment of the individual structure and make sure there's no rules broken, and that it has post behavior confirmation. So let's start from the low again. Here we have wave 1 going up. And if you measure the length of wave 1, an important part of a 5th wave extension is that wave 1 is the shortest and wave 5 is the longest. So I'm going to show you here that the length of wave 1, you copy that, you can see that wave 3 is a teeny bit longer, and that would be a very common phenomenon in a 5th wave extension pattern. If you want to go to chapter 5 in the book, pull up chapter 5, page 14, the bottom left-hand corner. Here it shows a 5-wave move with a 5th wave extension. You can see it almost looks exactly like the diagram in the book. Wave 2 is the simplest, and it's a very mild correction. Wave 3 is a little bit longer. Wave 4 is more complicated and is slightly drifting upward and finishes at a higher low than the lowest point of wave 4. And then wave 5 is this big long move up, and so it has the same expansionary bias, has the same complexity for wave 4 relating to wave 2. And if you want to read through the rules of a 5-wave move, let's see, that would be earlier in the chapter where it discusses channeling on page 5.9, and it discusses Fibonacci relationships on 5.11, and other things on 5.12. So you want to read through that section and refer to the diagram itself. Now, so it has the general shape, it has the channeling, and it has the look. The next thing you want to check is how does wave 5 relate to wave 3? We compare it here. You can see that wave 5 is more than 161%, so it qualifies as an extended wave, and it's just around 200% of wave 3. I would accept it anywhere between about 161 to 261, so this is right in the middle. So it makes it a perfectly legitimate 5-wave move. Now, if you look at the complexity of wave 3 and wave 1, they're both mono waves. So unlike what orthodox LA wave people would do with a wave count, you normally don't want to have a completely elaborate, fully developed 5-wave move for the extended wave when the other waves are just mono waves. There's also a balance that occurs between patterns. If one wave is really simple and the wave after is very complicated, you generally want the wave between, the wave after them to be about halfway between. So if we take the time and complexity of waves 3 and 4, you can see that wave 3 is a mono wave and wave 4 would be what I call a polywave. There's 7 waves in wave 4 and only 1 and 3. So you add 3 and 4 together. So at the total of 8 mono waves, you divide that by 2, and that gives you a very good projection for the complexity of the third one in the sequence. So keep in mind, whenever you're dealing with patterns, the third one in the sequence, if it's following 2 that are very different, so if you have one wave that's very time consuming, followed by one that's very simple, the third one will usually be half of those 2 added together. If you have one wave that's very simple in complexity and the next one is very complicated, you add them together and then divide it by 2. If they're in price, you can do the same thing as long as you're dealing with patterns going the same direction. So if this one were very short, this one were very long, you add them together, divided by 2, that would project wave 5. Since 1 and 3 are very similar in price, wave 5 should be much longer. Since 3 and 4 are very different in complexity, wave 5 should be half of that complexity. So 1 plus 7 divided by 2 is 4. You can't have 4 mono waves in a pattern and say they got to be 3 or it's got to be 5. So that allows us to have wave 5 look like a corrective rally, but most likely it's missing some structure. Most likely it was maybe missing a 1, 2 right around here due to simplification of data. You notice that the correction we can see is only 1 time unit, and when a pattern is only 1 time unit, that opens up the possibility for missing price action. This is discussed in chapter 4, I think. Let me look that up real quick. I haven't had to deal with missing price action in a really long time, so let's see if I can find that really quick. Not sure if I'm going to be able to find it quick enough. I don't want to have y'all on hold while I'm looking for it, but you want to go to the front section of each chapter and see if you can find references to missing